So we're consulting in MAP. I'm Matthew Joseph.
I'm John Eddington.
I'm Anya Olina.
Alright, so overview just for our presentation. We're going to talk about getting into the market, and we're going to move to learning styles, mathematical applications. We have a demo done by Perry to show you what it actually might look like. We have some interviews, and then economic opportunities. So VR integration. So we have a timeline basically just to show what possible routes you guys can take with this technology. And there's actually two paths you can take on this. One is both the same start. It's getting your software aligned with the curriculum needs. So basically that just means the state requires you to teach these certain things. You have to know these things in math, these things in history. That's just aligning whatever you sell to the schools, that to make sure it has those. Then it gets down to private schools, and this is where the road kind of changes. You can go between either looking at the perspective from private schools can take risks, therefore they're able to invest into VR and see how that works, or you can go into research study, which basically is you're going to donate to the schools and say, oh, we're going to donate this to you, but we want to see how it works with your students. We want to check how their scores change. Does it improve? And that's a big. And then, then for both of those, that's going to lead to widespread media coverage, which is very big for almost every market, especially this one. The only way for VR to expand is if it's being seen as, oh, this is a really good thing. And then lastly, getting into public schools. Public schools is basically the promised land for this whole thing. That's where you can get money from it, and John's going to talk more about ROI and where that opportunity comes from.
So these are numbers on national education spending. As you can see, in the past 5 years, the federal total education budget has gone down. But within that budget, the innovation and improvement spending, which includes education research and computer science programs, has improved up to $5.7 billion, which is higher than past years. And then there was a new bill actually turned into a law which approved a higher California state education spending budget. And there are three different main types of learning styles, which include audio, visual, and kinesthetic. And then we'll get into the numbers on percentage of students of each learning style. 30% are reported auditory, 30% kinesthetic, and then 40% visual. So our studies have actually shown that most students have at least a mix of one or more of the three different learning styles. And VR offers up experiential learning, which covers all the bases and is which is like a new type of learning style, which hasn't been one way to learn, which covers all those bases before.
So now we're going to get more applications more towards our specified subject. So for math, we kind of decided the three big things that VR could help with are geometry, word problems, and then elementary school counting. So starting with geometry, for me personally, my hardest subject in high school has been geometry, just because looking at a whiteboard and seeing 3D shapes and seeing those formulas never really clicked with me. But we saw the perspective of, oh, if in geometry, you can look at the shape and you see it right in front of you, and you can expand it and you can see how the formula changes. That would be very beneficial to learning. And we even have Perry's demo, which kind of touches on this. We have word problems. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with any of these, but angle of elevation and angle of depression was one of the biggest ones we thought. If you're sitting there doing a word problem, and you're able to look up and see the angles, see how that changes, that would be a much bigger or much easier way to learn it. And then these kind of have to do the same thing. Then bearing, this one too, has to do with which direction you go, and seeing how that changes too. Elementary school counting. So are you two familiar with ABC Mouse? So ABC Mouse is like this new program that I'm not sure who it's by, but basically it's who? So think it's Disney, but it basically a ton of parents are turning to this for pre-development for kids because it covers counting, shapes, colors, all those sorts of things, and it's been proven to really benefit the kids. So like this, VR could also be used in that way, especially in lower schools, which we thought would be very good. So then now Perry's going to talk about his game.
Okay, so the VR game is just a simple demonstration of how this can be applied in a geometry class. What it is, I'll show you guys the demo in a bit, but basically it's just some podiums with some shapes set up, and it shows the name of it, the surface area formula, and the volume formula. And while I didn't get to all of the applications that I would have liked to create in it, eventually there would be systems where you can, pull it out and it'll show a net of the object, so you can see how the surface area is calculated. As well, there will be a feature where you could maybe expand the object and see how the relationship between the volume and the surface area changes. So it really gives you a more, a better understanding of how shapes work and how those formulas are physically working. So I'm just going to run the demonstration really quick. It's fairly simple at the moment, but if any of you guys want to come up and stick on the headset, all right. Adjust the shots a little bit. And it should be against that wall where you're looking. And so if we clear out of the way, you guys can see what you're seeing on the screen. So it's just, for now, some simple podiums.
Oh my god.
It's all good. You can see like the podiums, there'll be objects on it, and you'll be able to pick them up using the controllers, and then you can interact with them further.
Very cool. Do a few more. Okay.
What did you use?
Unity. So yeah. Of course, there's further applications of this using word problems. You could have a plane flying overhead, and then an instructor would show you, oh, how are you going to calculate this?
That would have helped me.
Yeah.
That would be on the different.
It's really useful to see even like a simple demonstration such as this. You can really get a feel for like how the applications can really be used. And even simple applications like this, they don't take long to develop, and so they'd be fairly simple to program and redistribute for educational purposes. Don't worry about it.
So now on to our interviews. We interviewed 8 teachers and 20 students, and 2 were math department chairs. So this was one, Mrs. O'Shea. She's our school's head of the department for math. And we also interviewed the Hubbard Day head of department for math. And we just talked about VRs. We talked about VRs and how to incorporate it into schools. And so one of the questions we asked teachers was, what do you think is the best way for students to learn? And one teacher said, students learn in any way other than listening to what teachers have to say. So that kind of puts the base of, there was definitely an excitement for VRs. So we kind of wanted to explain it in an if-then kind of format, in the sense that everyone was very excited, students and teachers alike, to use VR and implement it into the classroom, but there were some limitations and concerns they had. So our ifs are, if there's an effective program or course that is provided, the program and VR sets are cost effective, can accommodate class sizes of at least 20, because for private schools it would be around 20, but when you get to public schools it would definitely increase. And so with the cost, and that was one of the biggest concerns, the accommodations and the cost. And then there was also concerns that with technology, it'll go out of date in a couple of years. Schools will invest a ton of money into it, and then 2-3 years later, there'll be something better. So they want to have that security that this will last, like a textbook will last. And then the other concern is that if you get this program, you're not going to have teachers who are able to teach the class because they won't know anything about VR or how to do it effectively. So being able to train the teachers or create a very easily learnable program to keep that level of education the same as if you were teaching it regularly. And so if all those things, then schools will gladly implement VR into education, and then students will learn faster, retain more,
Anya was saying, since hardware is the primary expense in this and technology is advancing so rapidly, we think a good sale opportunity would be to just design software, design programs for already existing VR education hardware. And so the Google Expedition Kits is one of the more commonly used VR sets, and it includes packages for 10, 20, and 30 students, which is up to $8,000 for 30 students. And this includes the Google Cardboard and tablets for each of the devices. And so if you're able to make educational programs that were easy to use for teachers and students, I think it'd be really easy to implement these into these already existing hardware kits. And it is hard to get these approved for public schools, but more and more private schools are using kits like this every year.
Thank you.